This video is for topic 5.1 over different forms of linear equations, day 1. So the bell work for today asks us to write and graph an equation that has a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of -9. So that slope of 3 is given to us. Y-intercept of -9 can be written as a number or as a point. Remember that when we write equations, we write y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope, which in this case is 3, m and x go together, and then plus b goes afterwards. In order to graph, we graph our y-intercept first down at -9, and then a slope of 3 means it will go up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, and so on throughout the graph. We graph our line between the points, and then the last thing we are asked to do is find the x-intercept. The x-intercept is the point where it crosses the x-axis, so that is the number 3, also the point 3, 0. Today we are talking about 3 different forms of linear equations. We are talking about standard form. Standard form is like the proper, prissy, everything has to be my way or the highway, very specific way. The reason I say that is because it has very specific things that must happen. A, B, and C all have to be integers. So unfortunately in standard form, it is not an accepting form. We cannot have fractions. We also have to make sure that A in the front is positive. So we can't have fractions and it has to be a positive number. So it's very persnickety. Now slope-intercept, m is a slope, b is the y-intercept, we solve for y. This one, fractions are okay. And in point slope, fractions are okay. So we are asked to convert each equation from slope-intercept to standard. Remember, standard is the proper ax plus by equals c. So a couple of things to note: x and y are on the same side, a has to be positive, and we can't have fractions. So on problem 1, I know that x and y have to be on the same side. So I'm going to take 2x and move it to be on the same side as y. Remember, when we move things, we create opposite signs. We can't just put it over there. We have to physically move it. If you are someone who struggles with lining up or accidentally adding terms that are not like terms, then you might want to start writing things on, like, my y's go here, my x's go here, and notice that I did not line them up. That will help you because when we rewrite this, we can see x and y are different terms, so we just rewrite them. So if you are someone who struggles with rewriting and when do I combine like terms, when do I not, keep everything lined up. Here, x's and y's are different, so I don't line them up together. From here, we have x and y on the same side, but a, the number in front, has to be positive, and we can't have fractions. Now, we don't have fractions, so that's fine, but x has to be positive. So the way I get rid of a negative is I divide each and every term by a negative number. If I just change x, I have changed the value of this problem and it is no longer the same. Whereas if I change everything by the same thing, then this problem is the same. So we divide by a -1 to change all of my signs. So my x is a positive 2x, y is a -y, and then a positive 7. That is my answer, where a is positive, x and y are on the same side, and my number is on the other side, and there are no fractions. Problem 2, we are still trying to get this in standard form. So again, my x needs to move to the other side, so I add 1/2 x to both sides. Keep in mind, x and y are not like terms, so I do not write them together. When I add straight down, I have 1/2 x plus y, and then -7 on the other side. Now for this one, x and y are together and x is positive. However, we can't have fractions. So what that means is I need to get rid of the fraction in the with the x. I have to clear out the fraction. Now the way we clear out fractions is we multiply by the denominator. Okay, and in a fraction, you have your numerator and your denominator, so we are talking about the number on the bottom. Here's why. If I multiply, I'm going to do it in blue. If I multiply by 2 in my calculator, I originally had 1/2, and I'm multiplying that by the denominator. My answer here happens to be 1. It won't always be 1, but you can see this is a positive whole number, an integer. So if I multiply by 2, I'm getting rid of the fraction. Now, whatever I do to one piece, I have to do to all of the pieces. So I have to multiply y by 2 and -7 by 2. When I do that, 2 times 1/2 cancels. 2 times y is 2y. And -7 times +2 is a -14. Now that can be my answer because I don't have fractions and I have gotten rid of, or x and y are on the same side, and a in front of x is not negative. On the back, they asked me to convert standard to slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is where you basically solve for y. It's y equals mx plus b. So we try to get y completely by itself. This is what you are probably the most used to. In order to solve for y, I move the x term. Now, again, we do not have like terms on this right side, so I did not line them up because they're not like terms. So I have 9, and I am taking away 2x from it, and I simply rewrite that, 9 minus 2x. You could also write a -2x plus 9. The order does not matter. Now from here, I have to divide. And when I divide by -3, because again, I'm trying to get y by itself, I have to divide every single term by -3. I divide every single piece of the right side and the left side by -3. When we divide every single piece, and we get 2/3 x minus 3, or -3 plus 2/3 x. Either of these are acceptable. Technically, for slope-intercept, x comes in front, but just because it's written backwards doesn't mean it's wrong. Again, make sure here that you divide every piece by -3. Problem 4, we're doing the same thing, trying to get y by itself. We move x. X and 20 are not like terms, so I just rewrite them. And then divide every piece by 5. So y is -4/5 x plus 4. So 4 divided by 5 is just 4 divided by 5. 20 divided by 5 is a +4. So remember, if it does not simplify, leave it as a fraction. 5 and 6 ask us to go from point slope to slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is still where y is by itself. So this is given to us in point slope form, and we are asked to solve for y, basically. When we solve for y, first thing we're going to do is distribute, because whenever you are trying to simplify or get something by itself, you cannot have fractions. So we distribute 2 times x and 2 times 0 or -0. The y minus 5 stays the same. We simplify 2 times x, 2 times 0. My second step is to move the 5. Right now it is a -5. In order to move, I add 5 to both sides. Keep in mind that 5 is a number, so when I am adding it, I would not add it to x because x is an x and numbers are numbers. We do not combine them if they are not the same. So I have 2 x's, and then 0 plus 5 is 5. So again, I added 5 to the 0, not to the x, because 5 is not an x, it is a number. On problem 6, we distribute again. 1/2 times x. Half of 2 is 1. And then I move my 2. It is not an x, it is a number, so I line it up with my numbers. And we get 1/2 x plus 3. The bottom asks us to go from point slope to standard. So remember, standard is the super persnickety one. These are going to be the hardest problems. So remember, with standard form, x and y have to be together, a has to be positive, and we can't have fractions. So for problem 7, I'm going to distribute negative 4/5 times x and negative 4/5 times 15, which gives you negative 12. From here, I'm going to go ahead and move x to the other side because I need x on one side and my numbers on the other. Remember, an x is an x, it's not a y, it's not a number, it is an x, and I move it by doing the opposite operation, so the opposite of a negative is a positive. So 4/5 x plus y minus 2 equals negative 12. I add 2 to both sides to get x and y only on this side. And I have negative 10 on the left side, or I'm sorry, on the right side. Now, x and y have to be together, check. X has to be positive, check. No fractions. Those are the 3 things with standard form. Remember, like we talked about, in order to get rid of a fraction, you multiply by the denominator. In the calculator, we can see, remember, we're not trying to make it cancel, we're just trying to get rid of the fraction. So if I take 4/5 and multiply it by 5, I now have a positive whole number of 4, which got rid of my fraction. Whatever I do to one piece, I have to do to all of the pieces. So the 5's cancel and I have 4x. 5 times y is 5y. Negative 10 times 5 is negative 50. And now I'm done. A is positive. There are no fractions. X and y are together. Problem 8, doing something similar. Distribute first. 2/3 times x, 2/3 times negative 3. We get negative 2. I'm going to move x to the other side. By doing the opposite. So I have a negative 2/3 plus y plus 4 equals negative 2. So I moved the 2/3. I haven't done anything else. I move the 4 because I need x and y only on the left side. So negative 2/3 x plus y equals negative 6. Now again, can't have fractions, so we need to multiply everything by the denominator of 3. So the 3's cancel. I have negative 2x. 3 times y is 3y. And then negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. X and y have to be on the same side. Check. Can't have fractions. Check. X has to be positive. Ooh. In order to get rid of a negative, we divide every piece by negative 1. So 2x minus 3y equals a positive 18 would be my answer.